Welcome to the Muscle Expert Podcast with Ben Pakulski, one of the world's top professional bodybuilders, an expert on human performance and mindset mastery. Ben dives deep to deliver the strategies of the top experts to upgrade your body, mind, muscle, strength, performance, biochemistry, and how to become the upgraded modern man.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Muscle Expert Podcast. Today, we're doing the thyroid deep dive. So many people are living this terrible existence of having low thyroid. And to be honest, myself included at one point, as a professional bodybuilder, transparently, I use thyroid hormone, not realizing the negative repercussions long-term of literally shutting down my thyroid. I've been taking intervention actions now to actually dietarily improve my thyroid. I've never taken thyroid again, but I still see negative effects from time to time, which is why it was very interesting to me to have Elle Russ on the podcast. She wrote a book on how to heal your thyroid. She's a very, very brilliant authority. She passionately, as you guys will soon find out, educates us on everything to do with thyroid, from T3, T4, reverse T3, and TSH, and teaches us what you should be looking for on blood panels and what you should definitely not be looking for, and how to know if your physician is the right person for you, if they're actually able to help you with your thyroid. So if you're someone who may be struggling with your weight, or if you're maybe a trainer and a coach, knowing how to interact with these things would be a massive asset to you. Elle Russ joins me today on the podcast. I hope you enjoy. First of all, I've heard a number of podcasts you've done, and your book seems absolutely fantastic. And I deal with a lot of one-on-one clients, particularly women that have thyroid dysfunction. I would love for you to enlighten us with some knowledge around optimizing thyroid health and letting us know how that's influencing all of our aspects of our health. Because I know that without fixing your thyroid, you can't have great energy, you can't have great brain function. So many things that are going to be implied with deteriorated thyroid function. So first of all, I'd love to hear a little bit about your backstory and why you decided to tackle the thyroid.
Well, I never intended on writing a thyroid book at all. I'm a creative writer. Initially started off in doing sketch comedy and improv as a comedian, working in this entertainment industry. It came up because I started to suffer. All of a sudden, I was in the quest of following sort of like that perfect body, because I had to be in order to be like in the ingenue category for getting hired for acting. This was just sort of the way of the world. Now it's getting better now. We see people on TV that are more representative of normal people. But, 13 years ago when I was in this game, it was, and I'm still in it. But at the time, I was working for a casting director, and, I heard her on the phone say to another agent, "Hey, your client's at an 8, I need her at a 2. And you just know that as your job as a leading lady, you've got to look like you walked out of Shape magazine. So, I was in this quest for perfect health. I thought, why don't I not do it the methamphetamine, Coca-Cola way? Let me try to do it the healthy way. Right. So I was following all the conventional wisdom, like the zone, eat every 2-3 hours, keep your insulin steady, kind of a low fat, low carb paradigm, which doesn't work. I was a sugar addict. I was hypoglycemic. I had absolute meltdowns every 2, 3, 4 hours. I was a total food addict. And here's the thing. I had achieved the body. So people would come up to me and be like, "Oh, you must work out." That's a great compliment. To anybody, when someone comes up to the grocery store, it's like, "You must work out. How do you do this?" That's a great compliment. But inside I was totally suffering. And I thought to myself, either something's inherently wrong with me, or everyone else who's fit is keeping this struggle a secret, this crazy struggle with food, this is just, because it was, quote, working.
They're all keeping it a secret.
Yeah, everyone's keeping it a secret. So I thought really something was wrong with me. I was ready to go to Overeaters Anonymous. I don't remember the last time I didn't always obsess or think or struggle about food and sacrifice. And so, for me, it was just like, this is the way it is, and I guess I'm cursed. Well, then what happened is in this quest for ultimate health and the acting body, I actually was on those wrong paradigms, and it ironically turned out to send me down a spiral of horrible health. So essentially I contributed it to my hypothyroidism by overexercising, undereating, not getting satiated enough, following all of the principles that I now do the opposite of. So why did I become an expert is because I actually live in the very major city of Los Angeles with tons of hormone doctors and experts in anti-aging. And yet I went through 50 doctors total in 10 years. Nobody could help me. Nobody took the right test. I was misdiagnosed with things I did not have. Now, I want to stop there because some people will be like, oh, what did you just go to some dummy doctor who misdiagnosed you? And it's no. When you are hypothyroid, you're in a disease state. And because the thyroid is the master gland, and I'll get into that a second, when this is off, everything goes off. It's a domino effect. You're going to have low testosterone. You're going to have estrogen dominance. You're going to probably develop a fibroid and a polyp. You're not going to be able to get pregnant. If you're a guy, you might have issues with morning erections. I mean, everything, this is the major master gland / AKA proper thyroid status and hormone output. And if that's not right, everything else is going to fall apart. So then what happens is doctors are trying to patch it up all on the back end, right? Oh, you get this here. Let's patch that. Let's patch that. So I was misdiagnosed with all of these things. I was sent down this stupid path of just ill-advised, uninformed doctors using 30 to 40 outdated protocols. And at some point I said to myself, you know what? These people are hurting me more than helping me, and I'm going to do it myself. And so I did. So I actually ordered my own thyroid hormones. I dosed myself back to health twice in 10 years, once with a very acute reverse T3 problem, and I solved it. Now, no one should have to do that, but there are millions of patients that have to do that because they've exhausted their financial resources. I was a broke actor, and I spent about $15,000 of my own money, even though I have a PPO. Okay, I had the best insurance. Nobody could help me. What do? You're desperate. I was getting to the point, I've never been suicidal in my life, but I spoke about this at Paleo FX, where I was getting to the point where I said to myself, if I don't find an answer soon, I'm going to have to start thinking about killing myself, because life is not worth it. Life is not worth living this way. It is a horrible, horrible state to be. And anyone watching or listening to me now can be like, oh, she sounds totally normal. Yeah, well, that's because I'm over it and I'm not hypothyroid anymore, thanks to thyroid hormone and thanks to everything that I do. But it was a disaster. I mean, we're talking, can you only imagine being a woman, man, doesn't even matter who you are, but having all of these health issues, you don't know what's happening, you've gone to 25 doctors, no one's helping you, people think you're a hypochondriac, or they think you're crazy, no one seems to know. You think that's a great time to be in a relationship with someone? Like, oh, hey, nice to meet you, want to date? Like, I don't know what's happening to me. I mean, it's a really lonely, awful place. You don't want to go out of your house. You don't even have the energy to do so. Every time I bent my leg, it felt like I drank a bottle of MSG. I had skin thickening all over my body. It's a horrible, disgusting feeling of your skin thickening everywhere. It's called myxedema. It happens with hypothyroidism. I had over 30 symptoms. My hair, as you can see, is like curly and wavy. It lost all of its curl. It was falling out tremendously. And I had I would wake up one morning and have bangs. I'd be like, what happened to like half this chunk of hair? Constipation beyond belief, to the point where no laxatives would solve it. Inner itching of the ears. I mean, I'm 5'2", so I'm a small woman. Was probably like 110 at the time, 17% body fat. I shot up to 160 pounds, and that was with working out 2 hours a day and eating less than 1,200 calories. So nothing you do at all will work to lose weight unless you are not hypothyroid. So when people are like, oh, I've been going keto and I'm just gaining weight, well, you've probably got a medical issue underlying there, because otherwise it would work. And so to ask your body through exercise or through some diet paradigm to do something that it can't do, it's like trying to light a wet log. It's not going to work. So it's a very frustrating place to be, because you have no control over your weight or your body at all. And our philosophy in life, like as a human being, is that if we do X, it'll result in Z. Like, we know that if we go to the gym, we eat this, it should work, but it doesn't when you're hypothyroid. So it also fosters depression. We have more receptors in our brain for thyroid. So, I mean, I'll stop there. We can go into details, but I literally was just riddled.
What do you think the triggers were, Elle?
Yeah.
So you went from 110 to 160. What do you believe that the triggers were?
Lots of things. First of all, I ended up having a selenium deficiency at one point. Selenium is very responsible for the conversion of thyroid hormones, and it's a mineral that's often depleted in our soil. So getting 200 micrograms of selenium a day, even just for a couple months, if you're listening and you just want to optimize your own thyroid and you don't even have any problems, that would be a great idea. I was over-exercising, so chronic cardio. So when you're a sugar burner and you're doing chronic cardio and you're on that paradigm, you're really messing with cortisol and you're messing with blood glucose in a really negative way that affects thyroid and also affects testosterone. So, every time a sugar burner or hypoglycemic has this drop after 4 hours and now their blood sugar drops, cortisol doesn't like that and it responds. Same with the highs. It'll also respond. Both of those things are antagonistic to any workouts at the gym you're doing with muscles, and it's certainly antagonistic to testosterone and thyroid. So, when I talk about the Paleo Thyroid Solution, it's not just, oh, I got horribly fat and when I was thyroid and now I go paleo and I lose the weight. That is part of it. But the main part of it is that paleo, primal, ancestral evolutionary health is the optimal situation for our adrenal glands and blood glucose. It's the ultimate in both of those. And those things are absolutely related to thyroid. It's a triangle. It's like thyroid, adrenals, blood glucose. There's some other factors, of course, too. But so being fat adapted and getting unaddicted to glucose and getting rid of carbohydrate dependency will lead you down a steadier road with adrenals and blood glucose that will then foster the health of your thyroid and all of the metabolism of those hormones.
How important is this, in your experience, is carbohydrate consumption to thyroid health? Are there any correlation?
Here's the thing. There's a lot of people that'll say, oh, well, you need glucose to get the T3 into the cells and all of this stuff. Let's just let's do a review here. So if that were true, if low carb caused thyroid problems, which it does not, and I will go into detail on that, but let's say it did, we would have never made it to this point because procreation would have happened because nobody back in the day would have been able to carry a pregnancy successfully to term. If our ancestors were all hypothyroid because they were all keto and all never had any carbs for 6 months, no one would have ever successfully survived. Okay, it's just not the case. Where it comes into play as a problem is this. And I've talked about this several times. So people be like, oh, keto or low carb, it causes thyroid problems. No, it doesn't. Inherently, it doesn't. But here's where people might mix that up. Let's look at the people that are going to keto or low carb anyway. Usually it's people that have struggled for a while with weight loss, right? And if you do any kind of weight loss fitness program after 6 weeks, if you're not getting results, something's going on inside. It's not the actual thing you're trying. Okay, if it's not working, there's a reason it's not working. And you have to get to the bottom of that. So people coming to that kind of paradigm anyway are often struggle. They've been fat for a while and then trying to lose weight and they're exhausted and desperate. So they go to something like, okay, I'll just try this keto thing, right? Then they end up getting fatter because again, they're probably hypothyroid. They're not burning fat. So they're trying to light a wet log and they're putting more fat onto a fire that can't burn it. And now they've just got bad lipid panels and they're getting fatter. Okay. So, and people can get fat on a low carb diet. You would just have to overeat the amount of fat that you're burning. So, you can still get fat on a low carb diet. So people sometimes do it wrong. One of the things that we do know is that you become more efficient with thyroid hormone when you are low carb and keto. Okay, so I coined that as T3 efficiency. So someone might look at Mark Sisson's T3 and go, ooh, we're worried about you. But he has no symptoms ever, right? He has no symptoms. There's no other markers. So is it really true? Does he have a thyroid problem just because the blood tests look like that way? No, he doesn't. It's because for him, that level of T3 is okay because he's efficient at it. So in the absence of symptoms or any issues, whatever T3 level you have or whatever your blood results are probably fine for you because if they're not, you would have symptoms. And believe me, this has happened to a bunch of people where, they'll say, oh, we're worried about your thyroid and they're only looking at one test and they're not even assessing the human being. This happened to Mark Sisson and Brad Kearns both, who were told by some doctor who tested them wrong and said, we're worried about your thyroid. And they're like, well, I've never even had a symptom in my life. So I don't, how is this possible? So we can't go just on blood tests, but so while someone may say that going low carb can lower conversion or do this, you can look at any blood test you want, what's happening with the person and their life and their symptoms, and sometimes it's okay. There's a great example of a guy in our space, Tony Federico. He's missing a thyroid gland. It was removed because of thyroid cancer many years ago. He's on medication. When I looked at his blood results, his free T3 was a little bit lower than below the mid-range, which is usually not the case for people on thyroid hormone replacement. But in talking to him in detail, what we realized is he's so dialed in with his diet and his lifestyle that he's just more T3 efficient than most of the population. So for him, that level is okay. Now, he had room to increase it if he wanted to, but he's like, I'm feeling great. So nothing's wrong.
Before we get into the mechanics of thyroid, I'd love for you to start, I know you listed some of them, but some of the symptoms that someone may be experiencing with low thyroid. So, and like I said, you listed some of them, but if you could just kind of reiterate, so someone knows if they're living with it.
Yeah, well, I'll run it down right away. First of all, any kind of mental issues. So those could be silent. People are very hesitant about expressing the following. So if you feel like I'm getting older or dumber in the brain, if you're mixing up your words like a dyslexic, you can't find the words, you have to reread paragraphs. You're starting to forget numbers, you're in accounting and you just can't, cognitive abilities start to go. It's scary for people to express this, right? Because that's a scary thing. And a lot of people have this where they're like, oh, well, my Aunt Mary, she was a little bit messed up in the brain there. Maybe this is what's happening to me. No, it's not. Maybe Aunt Mary had untreated hypothyroidism. Let's not go down that road, okay? But so anything mentally, that includes depression, that includes general malaise. If you notice somebody or yourself losing interest in their dreams, life, just being like, what's it all for? I just want to give up. And that doesn't necessarily mean suicide. It just means, not getting up and working out, taking care of yourself, even like your hygiene, just kind of letting yourself go. Any kind of being overwhelmed by multitasking. So what happens is often people that are hypothyroid, because you don't have any energy from the thyroid, your adrenals take over. They end up getting exhausted. So any of the following symptoms: sensitivity to light, sound, and smells. Like you can't handle music, you can't handle noises, or like you've been living in an apartment for 10 years and suddenly the upstairs neighbors are just like so loud you can't handle it. It's driving you crazy, but you never noticed it before. Those type of things. Sensitivity to smells and perfumes and things like that on other people. It will just be an instant offense. Like when I had this issue twice, I would get into someone's car and a friend of mine would show up with her regular perfume and I had to tell her, like, you can't wear perfume around me. You almost become intolerable of almost everything. So the idea of doing more than one thing in a day, and it will totally overwhelm someone with hypothyroidism and adrenal fatigue. Now, taking a couple hours to get going in the morning. If you don't get up out of bed and you're not ready to rock and roll, there's a problem. Okay, so I'm not saying that you can't take your time a little bit and adjust to the morning and have a cup of coffee. You know who you are, though, if you can't get it together, if it takes forever and you wake up exhausted. That is another sign. So mental, anything having to do with gynecological or male part stuff. That means not having erections every morning. And, listen, that should be happening for a very long time for men naturally. So if it's not, that's an issue. Men will experience some temperature issues with cold hands and feet and feeling cold. But for the most part, a lot of guys will notice the sex drive issue because it'll be related to low testosterone usually. And this is why you don't go into a doctor, you find out you have low testosterone, you don't take the testosterone right away because you check the thyroid first. You fix this thyroid, that testosterone will shoot back right up and you don't need to take it. You don't want to have to give yourself exogenous hormones and shut down your production unless it's absolutely necessary. So oftentimes you just correct the thyroid, the testosterone levels get back up to normal and you're good to go. By the way, I also just want to throw in there, a lot of guys that go keto, sometimes when keto suppresses your appetite, and it's a great thing if you've come from a place of being a food addict, because now you don't think about food. But unfortunately, people can kind of get off on that in a little bit of a high kind of way. And what happens is they end up not eating enough calories. That can really drop testosterone, and then you'll start to not to be able to recover. So any kind of not recovering after exercise, just tired more than usual, any kind of brain fog, and you know it if you have it. It's staring into space for a while. It's not being able to focus. It's that same feeling when you have a horrible sinus cold and you just, nothing is fun. You can't think, you're driving, you're kind of spacing out. You can't focus on a TV show. Nothing seems fun. You're just kind of staring into space. That is brain fog. Definitely any kind of depression, bipolar issues. Bipolar can be related to Hashimoto's because they can have swings of hypo and hyper. Heavy legs, feeling like when you walk, you have like legs of cement, restless legs, inner itching of the ears, constipation, any kind of gut health, gas, gut issues are always come into play. Nutrient deficiencies always show up. But as far as like physical symptoms, it's mostly like just you feel exhausted and old. And by the way, it is a extreme form of accelerated aging. I cannot tell you how much younger I look now than I did 13 years ago when I was hypothyroid. What it does to your skin and everything else is just advanced glycation, and it's a total disaster. And you are aging rapidly. That is actually happening. You're dying slowly, and it feels like that, by the way. It's a horrible, I wish I could describe to the lengths of what this feels like, because it's something you can't see. I mean, some people can look at you and notice you might have gained weight or gotten bloated or whatever. The other thing too is waking up with puffy eyes, puffy face, puffy skin, feeling bloated, and so much more. Dry, cracked skin, brittle fingernails, brittle hair, acne all of a sudden. Like I had perfect skin my whole life, and then I got horrible, crazy acne and skin issues all of a sudden. And then, of course, any kind of other diagnosis, like if your doctor says, oh, you have high blood pressure, do you? Or is it just thyroid and or insulin resistance? Because just so that everyone knows, high blood pressure is often insulin resistance, period. It's not like, oh, it runs in my family. Does it? It might, but it also, most of the cases, it doesn't. That would be like saying all the obese people out there in the world have thyroid problems. Nah, do they? Well, some of them probably got them there themselves and some do, but that's not a rule pretty much right there. So, yeah, gosh, I don't know. I'll let you jump in here.
Hey, everybody. I interrupt this podcast to bring you a special message from the MI40 Nation, the home of the most intelligent muscle building on the planet. Muscle intelligence is something I started in 2011 after seeing a massive need all around the world. I had this amazing opportunity to travel the world and go to hundreds of gyms, meet thousands of people, and it really seems that everyone has the same issues in building their greatest body. There's a very few number of things, when done correctly, that will massively change your body very, very quickly. And it's not rocket science. It's not like doing something completely different. It's just learning specific angles for your body. It's learning basic principles that everyone does wrong. So here's some basics. SSI. Can you remember those three letters? SSI. What does that mean? Set up, stabilize, initiate. If you can remember those three letters, you can absolutely change your body and your life really quickly. How you set up determines success and failure in every exercise. If you're setting up incorrectly, you don't stand a chance of maximally recruiting the muscle. And keep in mind, that's your goal with everything you do, right? Your goal should be to challenge a muscle, not to complete an exercise or lift a weight. How can I challenge this muscle? I need to set up mechanically, so I'm challenging that muscle the most. The next thing is stability. I need to stabilize my body like I'm in a cast. What does that mean? Why do I need to stabilize? Well, muscle contraction is governed by stability. If you're not stable, your body will literally downregulate contraction. Thirdly, initiate. Initiate with the muscle you're trying to train. Why? Well, have you ever moved a car from being parked versus actually moving? Well, it's a lot harder. So we're trying to maximize the amount of work that goes through a muscle. I want that muscle to have to work as hard as possible from every inch. And if you let your body do what it wants to do, it's going to find some other big muscle to initiate with momentum and then swing through an exercise. And if you haven't heard my podcast with Tom Purvis, you should check that out because he talks a lot about understanding momentum and how the body finds incredible ways to cheat mechanically and make things easier for yourself, and realize you're not trying to make things easier. You're not trying to make things complete. You're trying to challenge muscles. And that's what we do the best at the MI40 Nation. So you can go to mi40nation.com to sign up, or perhaps even better than that, I suggest you go to hypertrophymastery.com and sign up for my 4-month Hypertrophy Mastery program, which is literally everything I teach here in the gym at my camp. If you were to come here and spend a week with me, this is exactly the deep dive you're going to get and learn how to master not just exercise, but exercise for your body, because I get into the specifics about how to manipulate exercises to maximize recruitment for every different body type. Head over to hypertrophymastery.com and get that now, and enjoy the rest of the show. That's great. Most people are going to go to the doctor, and the doctor's going to, mindlessly prescribe T3, mindlessly prescribe T4. One of the things I loved about your conversation is you had a really intelligent thought process behind the approach to understanding first, I guess, maybe starting there, understanding the mechanics behind the thyroid hormones, the T4, the T3, the reverse T3, the reverse thyroid. Talk to me about those. Can you teach me about the mechanics of thyroid hormones, and then eventually working your way down the path of how to actually create an intervention?
Sure. Let's just, I'll just tell you how the thyroid works. And this might seem like a little bit overwhelming to people because I'm going to mention T4, T3, reverse T3, these kind of things, but it's actually quite simple if you just look at it as a logical picture. So your thyroid's at the base of your neck. It's below your Adam's apple if you're a guy. And what happens is that the pituitary gland in the back of our brain, you can consider like a sensor. And when your body gets low in thyroid hormones, it shoots off a wake-up call signal to the thyroid, like, yo, wake up, time to produce more thyroid hormones because her blood is getting low. Okay, it's this really interesting feedback loop. Now, when that message is sent, that message is called the TSH, thyroid stimulating hormone. It is not a thyroid hormone, and it is the bane of every thyroid patient's existence because it is the misused test to assess thyroid hormone. If anyone is listening and they're on thyroid hormone, go back to your blood test. If your doctor only tested your TSH and T4, you're with an uninformed doctor, you better run. Secondly, if you have anyone that tells you you have a thyroid problem or not based on the TSH alone, you again are with an uninformed doctor and you get the hell out of there and you find one who knows what they're talking about. You are going to be led down the wrong road, and I'll explain why in a minute. So this signal is sent. This signal, by the way, this test is from 1973. Okay, so it's a little bit outdated as far as the protocol. So it sends a signal. Now, in a normal person who has no thyroid problems, what's going to happen is the thyroid is going to emit mostly T4 and a little bit of T3. Okay, what is this about? The only biologically active thyroid hormone that there is T3. But T3 is so powerful that your body emits more of its storage hormone, which is T4. So it's kind of like a slow release mechanism. Your body releases maybe 80%, we're not totally sure, but like roughly 80% T4, 20% T3. And then throughout the day as you need it, this T4 is going to convert into this powerful metabolic fat burning powerhouse as you need it. And when you don't need it, or any unused T4 in that situation will get washed out through a process of reverse T3. Why does this happen? It's there for a reason to save your life. It's a really incredibly elegant feedback loop, and here's why. So on the note of T3 being the powerful biologically active hormone, it's really the only fat burner we have in our body. If you have no T3, you're not burning fat, you have no metabolism, your brain's not working, you're depressed. You cannot live without this thing. Okay, that's why you can't live without a thyroid gland. If you're on a stranded island, you don't have a thyroid gland, you're dead. So what happens is if you were to Google T3 or Cytomel or whatever, 100,000 bodybuilding websites come up. And that is because bodybuilders will jam themselves with T3 for about 6 to 8 weeks in order to burn as much fat as humanly possible before a competition. Okay, that says a lot about T3 being a fat burner, but T3 is very powerful. It's like gasoline. It peaks in 2 hours and kind of dissipates within 4. So the steadiness of that T4, right? We get some direct T3 from our thyroids, but the T4 is converting as you need it. Maybe you just had a strong workout, and then afterwards that T4 is going to convert into the T3 you need. But now let's say you just get into an accident, or you get Lyme disease or cancer, whatever the threat is. Now, in that situation, your thyroid's going to downregulate. It's going to go, whoa. We're not going to throw more fire onto this train wreck that's happening over here. So we're going to take this T4 we're producing, and instead of convert it into T3, the biologically active thyroid hormone, we're going to convert it into reverse T3, the inactive form, to save her life. Okay, so in the case of a flu, whatever, it's going to make that decision. Now, here's where the problem comes in. So you're a normal human being. You're not on thyroid hormone, but let's say you are under immense stress. You're under eating. Maybe you're just stressed out, not sleeping. Maybe you're running a marathon and you're on the wrong paradigm of food eating. Doesn't matter what the message of stress to your body is. Your body will perceive that as a stress, and it's going to go, whoa. This chick is in danger. She's starving. So in the case of, let's say, under eating and overworking out, she's starving. We are not going to give her any more of this fat-burning T3 because she can't afford to burn any more fat until she gets some food. We're not doing this for her. Furthermore, she's not going to be able to hold on to a baby. We're going to give her a miscarriage because she is in no position to have a child right now. It sounds a little weird to personify the body, but your body's always trying to save your life. And I use this example with type 2 diabetes. Oh, how awful. No, type 2 diabetes is saving your life. If you get fat with type 2 diabetes, that's what you want. You don't want to be skinny diabetic. You want to be a fat diabetic if you could choose one, because at least it's pushing the glucose into your fat cells and it's not running in your bloodstream. So your body's always trying to save your life. The thyroid master gland, what messages are you sending? Those messages can come in the form of a contentious phone call with your ex-husband or whatever it is, every day, or it can come in the form of being a marathon runner on the wrong, non-satiating, terrible nutrient paradigm. So we have to look at the messages we're sending, but they really come in the form of lifestyle and stress. So anytime you're sending it the wrong message or that subpar message, it's going to downregulate and not do what you want it to do. And you always want to do what you want to do. You don't want to send the message for it to stop and to hold back. You don't. You also don't want that message to be too much. That would be hyperthyroidism, but that's usually not induced by one's behavior. That's usually induced by an autoimmune disorder or taking too much thyroid hormone. So back to this loop. TSH says a signal. The thyroid responds by outputting about 80% T4, 20% T3, and then throughout the day, the T4 is going to convert into the T3 you need, and what's not used gets washed out through a reverse T3 system. I have had 2 bouts of hypothyroidism. The first one, just a quote normal one. The second one was a reverse T3 problem, and those are on the rise. So that means I was on thyroid hormone, but the T4 that I was taking was converting into the inactive form of T3, which is reverse T3. And we can imagine that like it's standing in front of the T3 cells saying, we're not letting you in. And then the T3 is just swimming around in your blood and not actually getting into the cells. So you remain hypothyroid even if you're on medication. Now, reverse T3 is happening a lot with just normal people under general stress or nutrient deficiencies. And one of the treatments for that, and one of the reasons T3 only is used for that, is T3 only by itself is the only thing that does not convert into reverse T3. T4 is the only thing that converts into reverse T3. So the only way to save one's life in that situation if it gets too bad, which is me, I take T3 only, which is the last choice of thyroid hormone that anybody should do, because I had a very serious reverse T3 problem. So back to this whole feedback loop. When you're just testing this signal, sometimes if that signal is really high, like let's say the range for TSH on a test is 0 to 5, that's roughly the range. If one time my friend's wife had a TSH of 150, she had decided to go off her thyroid hormones after like 30 years and just for the hell of it. And we looked at her tests and it was like she had 0 of all of the hormones, but her TSH was like 156. So what does that mean? It means the brain was screaming. It's screaming. It's going, yo, 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 please, please, please save her. Make hormones, make hormones. Now, she's been taking thyroid hormones again, and she's on the right kind now for a few months, and we're seeing the TSH go down. First it went down to 50, then it went to, it's on its way down as the others raise, because now that signal is going, all right, we don't have to be that loud anymore because we sense that there's actually thyroid hormones in her blood. So if anyone is gauging your thyroid status on this signal, they don't know what they're talking about, because all that matters is you get the package. The package is T3. The package is proper T3. Are you getting it? So there's a success story in my book, Kara Hahn. She has Hashimoto's, went to an endocrinologist, classic. They never tested her for Hashimoto's. They just put her on Synthroid, which is T4 only. It's the number 1 prescription in America right now, just so you know. And the reason that's not optimal is, as I've just told you, our bodies don't rely on conversion alone. Okay, they don't just rely on T4 converting. Our bodies do give us some direct T3. So that as a treatment has been subpar. It works for some people. But in this woman's case, if you look back at her blood work for 10, 11 years, not one doctor ever tested her free T3. They never asked the question, is the thing we're giving her converting into the thing that matters? And this is just a 30 to 40-year-old outdated paradigm. It's almost just like if someone told you and I that, you better be careful eating that steak. Aren't you worried about heart disease? I would laugh in their face. I'd be like, what kind of archaic, those studies have been debunked. We know saturated fat doesn't cause heart disease, but it does maybe clog them up in the presence of a high carb diet. But they never looked back then when they did those studies that have been debunked. They just looked at a bunch of dudes eating a bunch of steak and red meat and go, oh, these guys have clogged arteries. Did they look at what else they were eating? Because if they looked at that, they would have seen that the carbs were the problem. Because we are designed to primarily be fueled by fat, not carbs. So that's when the problems come into play there. But this is the same kind of story. There's all these uninformed doctors because they're just steeped in 30 to 40-year-old outdated protocols and they haven't gone above and beyond. I just went to an uninformed doctor the other day. I already have a doctor who I deal with all my stuff. But as far as your like annual checkup, your pap smear, your junk, whatever, you go through your insurance, And so I went and picked a new doctor through my insurance. I was transparent about who I was. I brought in my book. I said, just want to be honest. I wrote a book about uninformed doctors pretty much. And she admitted that half the tests I wanted her to take, she didn't know. She was just honest. She goes, I don't know what these are. Now, okay, at least she admitted she didn't know. But I then didn't hear her say, but I look forward to learning. Or, I don't know what these are, but because I don't, I'm going to go hit the books. It was just like, well, I just don't know. That's not really good enough for me, is it? Now, hopefully she'll learn. Maybe she'll read my book. But so there are still so many uninformed doctors out there that don't even know what these tests mean or how to evaluate it. So if you're not with a doctor that tests the following: TSH, free T3, free T4, and reverse T3, at least those main four, you're with an uninformed doctor. If they test at least TSH, free T3, and free T4, that's better. You also want to get 2 Hashimoto's antibody tests because that should be ruled out. Having both of them is worse than having just one, and those 2 are TPO antibody and TG, thyroid globulin antibody. You need to get tested for both. A lot of doctors only test you for one, and you can be positive for one and not the other. The reason it's important to know whether you have Hashimoto's is sometimes it's a different protocol of treatment in terms of Hashimoto's patients, because it's an autoimmune disorder, depending on how bad their situation is, their autoimmune system's crazy. It's just like very sensitive. So they might need to go to compounded T4, T3 to eliminate any of these extra fillers that might potentially be sensitive to them. That's one part of it. The other part is if you have Hashimoto's, you really need to go down the autoimmune protocol, paleo. You definitely can't eat gluten. We know for sure that gluten will trigger the antibodies. Why don't you want the antibodies there? Because antibodies equal inflammation, equal beginning more and more autoimmune other issues in that arena. Most doctors who are even treating thyroid patients well, and like they're doing well, if that patient has antibodies in the background, like I say, have TPO and they have like antibodies of 500, since they're on medication, they might not be feeling the rise and the fall of those antibodies, but they're not getting away with it. It's happening in the background. So this is a problem because someone may be listening who's like, I have Hashimoto's, I'm fine, I take my medication, I feel great. Yeah, but have you lowered your antibodies? Because most doctors don't even realize that you can even do that. Even most good doctors, some functional doctors don't even realize. They just go, oh, well, they have Hashimoto's, so those antibodies are always going to be there. Your goal as someone with Hashimoto's is to get those antibodies down to undetectable levels or definitely very low in the range. So that's a goal. And again, you could be harming yourself in the background. It's the same thing like an athlete on a carbohydrate dependent paradigm. They look good, so they think they're getting away with it, right? They're loading up the carbs, they're burning the carbs, right? But they're not getting away with it. They're still tapping their pancreas, and that's why we're having a lot of athletes who are now becoming pre-diabetic. So you're not really getting away with it in the background. So that's something that Hashimoto's patients need to know. You really do want to lower those antibodies. And the girl in my book, Kara Hahn, who I just spoke about, she was one of those people I never thought she'd give up grains. I was afraid to even tell her that gluten triggered the Hashimoto's antibodies because I was like, she's not going to hear it. But you know what? She took it on, and her antibodies for the first time in her entire life went from like 300 something down to 25, which was the lowest she had ever seen them. And that was just through eliminating gluten with some cheats. Live your life, people. You go to Chicago, you better eat some deep dish Chicago pizza. But you know what I mean? Like, you would just regulate your life differently if Hashimoto's. You would have less of those gluten cheats. So that's why it's important to know. What else can I clarify here?
So if somebody goes to their doctor and sees they have some T3, some T4 deficiencies, is it inevitable we're going on medication, or do we have some dietary interventions that can start actively repairing the thyroid? You
can turn this around in 8 weeks. I'm not kidding you. I've seen people turn around disaster scenarios in like 8 weeks by just eliminating, getting on the strict paleo protocol and optimizing some nutrients. It absolutely should be attempted. There are so many things. Okay, so how much of the rabbit hole do you want to go down? For example, silver fillings in the mouth, that can contribute to reverse T3, to mitochondrial dysfunction, heavy metals, right? So that's one thing. You got to look at that. Lyme's disease, that affects it. Do you have candida, SIBO, gut. There's lots of ways to attack this, but absolutely it can be attacked with natural optimization and nutrients and just. Yeah, and then you just wait 8 weeks, you get retested. Are things a little better? Are they going in the right direction? Great, then wait another 4. Great, then maybe get a few more tests and go down that road. Now, here's where it's a little past the point of no return sometimes. It's never past the point of no return ultimately, but let me just explain this kind of scenario. So there are a lot of people who've been trying natural stuff, whether they were doing the right thing or not, for like over a year, sometimes people a couple years. When you've been hypo that long, and all of this cascade of all of these things in your body have already fallen apart, and now they're all, you're a mess. It might not be enough to just follow you've gotten so far behind on all these levels that only proper thyroid hormone status will fix all of these other things. So in that case, you might have to go on thyroid hormone and just get optimized. Clean out all the problems, all the symptoms, they'll all go away. And then when you feel totally great again, you can say, all right, now I'm going to try to wean myself off thyroid hormone and see if my thyroid recalibrates, which could take 3 months. And it absolutely can work. So just because you start thyroid hormone doesn't mean it's going to be lifelong, and it might have to be. And that's okay. One of the things people are really worried about is they don't like the idea of the word medication. And they think, I don't want to be on medication. And I just want to impart to everyone, taking thyroid hormones is not medication. It's giving yourself something your body is missing. A medication is like a birth control pill, which completely manipulates your system in a way it's not meant to be manipulated. Same with statins, same with all these other medications we see advertisements for. That's why they have a list of a list of symptoms. I read one that said, you might throw up something that looks like coffee grounds. I was like, what kind of shit? So that's why, medications really mess with you when it's doing something, right? So I don't want people to think of it as a medication. It's you need proper thyroid hormone or you're never going to live a good life. You're never going to burn fat, and you're really going to acceleratedly age and possibly give yourself a disease you otherwise would not have gotten. So getting yourself out of hypothyroid state is imperative. Yes, try the natural protocol, and all you can do as much as you can. Who wouldn't want their natural endocrine system to work right? Yes, but at some point then you've got to go, okay, it's been 2 years. I feel like crap. My life's a mess. Yeah, go on thyroid hormone, get better. All the things will resolve. Then when you're at a place of, man, I feel great. I've been feeling great for a year. Maybe I'll try to wean off of it and see what I can do. So it's never totally past the point of no return. I just wanted to, hopefully that made sense why I said that.
Sure. Is the first intervention then, once they've decided, I can't do this dietarily, is the first intervention some balance of T3 and T4, or is it just going straight with T4 to begin with?
Honestly, in my opinion, and again, Synthroid can work for a lot of people, and it's valid. Synthroid being T3, T4 only, okay? That can work for a lot of people. If it were me, my suggestion would always be to go to natural desiccated thyroid. The only reason you wouldn't take natural desiccated thyroid is for some reason you were allergic to a filler in that pill, or you have a religious issue against pork, or some other ethical issue against pork, because natural desiccated does come from pigs. So the only way to avoid that is to get compounded thyroid, T4 and T3, and it's usually compounded in the exact same ratios as desiccated thyroid, and it's usually like an 80-20. So for example, in a starting dose of natural desiccated thyroid, which we call 1 grain or 65 milligrams, is 38 micrograms of T4 and 9 micrograms of T3. So you don't have to take the pork kind, but if you go with the compounded, they will compound it usually in those exact same ratios. And it just works great for most people, and most people can just get optimized normally on that. Now, there are other scenarios. There are people that take natural desiccated thyroid and take a little T4 added to it, or they take desiccated thyroid and they add a little T3. There's ways to kosher and adjust this, but most people tend to just do great and get optimized on Armour, Nature-Throid, IRFA. It doesn't matter. There are different names in every country, but natural desiccated thyroid is what I would suggest for everyone as a start, if they don't have a reverse T3 run.
What am I looking for? Let's say I've gone through my protocol, my doctor's prescribed some desiccated thyroid, and we found this natural ratio that feels like it's working. What am I looking for as far as optimal function? Most people, you'll probably understand, go through life never knowing what it feels like to feel great. People wake up every day with perpetual back pain. They wake up lacking energy. They always have brain fog. Should it just be like the type of thing you test every couple months? And many times hormones are these natural ranges that are prescribed are very subjective. Do you suggest that the range that is guided on?
Just because it's within range means zero,
Right.
means nothing, okay? No matter what it is. I don't care if it's vitamin D. If it's within range, it has to be optimal within the range. A vitamin D of 30 is not acceptable. It needs to be between 70 and 90. But the range might be from 0 to whatever. So, 30, it's within range. No, it's not optimal. So I do detail this in my book, but let me just explain this. This is not, what I'm about to say is not applicable for people on T4 only, okay? It's just not. So don't listen to anything that I have to say from here on out if you're on T4 only. If you are on T4 and T3 combination, anything with T3 in it, what usually happens is this. Once the person gets optimized, the tests look like the following. The free T3 will be above the mid-range. So in the US, it's usually 2.0 to 4.0, 2.0 to 4.2, so mid-range, 3.1, 3.2, something like that. Usually it's there or above or at the top of the range. There are people like, for example, let me get rid of this thing on my computer here a second. People who, Kara Han in my book, same one with Hashimoto's. She always feels best when her free T3 is at the top of the range, like 3.8, 3.9, or even a little bit over 4.0, 4.2. That doesn't mean someone's hyperthyroid. Everyone's different. Now, again, some people, it's where you feel well, but roughly that's what it looks like. When you're optimized on natural desiccated, the following usually happens. The TSH drops down to about 0. If you're with a doctor that is concerned about that, they're an uninformed doctor. You can go to the Q&A in the back of my book and listen to Dr. Forsman talk about why doctors are unnecessarily afraid of that and how it relates to a 40-year-old outdated protocol. So any doctor that's worried about your TSH being suppressed, if you are on a T4, T3 combo, not Synthroid. If you're on Synthroid and your TSH is suppressed, you're hyperthyroid. That's a problem. That's why I don't listen to this. So if you're on T4, T3 combination, what usually ends up working out is your TSH goes to 0.01. It's not a goal. It's just what happens. Now, doesn't that make sense? See, why would it be 0.1? It's because it's like, we're good. We don't need to shoot that signal. The blood is tapped, right? The wake-up call, that TSH is shutting up. Doesn't need to make the call anymore. It realizes you got the message, you got the package. So that's why it goes down. And then the free T3 will be mid-range or above, towards the top of the range. And the free T4 will usually be 1.3 to 1.4. If it's over 1.4, and again, I'm using a standard range in America from like 0 to 1.7 on a free T4, you don't really want it to be above 1.4. That would be a red flag that you might be hyper or that you might be in a reverse T3 problem. That's a rough shot of what labs would look like if you were optimized on natural desiccated thyroid or a T4, T3 combo. Now, if you're someone like me and you're on T3 only, it just depends. I'm on T3, but I still have half my thyroid working. Some people have to fully replace their thyroid completely with T3, which I have at 1.2. Those labs are not going to be what people are used to seeing, because it's going to be a 0 TSH, a 0 free T4, and it'll be a higher free T3, because we have to take into consideration that you're not doing any conversion with T4. So often patients on T3 only have a higher free T3 than people on desiccated. And again, a doctor might be like, oh my God, you're hyperthyroid. You're not hypo or hyper based on blood results. You are hypo or hyper based on blood results combined with symptoms, combined with diagnostics like temperature. Temperature is key. You can almost assess someone's hypothyroidism and adrenal sufficiency through taking basal and afternoon temps 3 to 5 days in a row. So this is where home diagnostics matter. This is where if you are on desiccated, let's say the way you do thyroid hormones, you never get your optimal dose right away. You have to build it up. So you start slowly, you keep going, you get tested every 3 weeks and you see where you're at. Now let's say you're at a point where you're like, Ma, I feel great. I've never felt better in my life. And you look at the labs at that point to know whether or not you should increase a little more. Like, do I need a quarter of a grain more? Do I need a little more? I feel great. Could I feel better? That question is usually answered by taking your temps. Because if you're not reaching 98.6 in the afternoon, and it doesn't have to be exactly that, but you should roughly be around 98.4, 90.6. So if you're not reaching that in the afternoon and you still have really shitty afternoon and morning temps, then that would tell someone, oh, maybe I need to add a quarter grain get tested in 3 weeks, and then maybe I'm there. So the tinkering comes with temps. That also happens with once people are optimized on medication, you're usually pretty good to go for a long time. Couple caveats. Sometimes people need a little bit more in winter and a little less in summer. So you do want to get tested twice a year. And again, this is where temperature comes in handy. If you're feeling off in any way, I'm feeling too up, too hyper, too my heart's palpitating, I'm feeling sweaty and clammy, and I don't feel right, or you're feeling hypo, that's when you go right to your temperature for 3 days in a row. And you can even make your own decision. Yeah, you're right. Summer's coming. Maybe I need to drop it by half a grain. I mean, you can always do this with your doctor. I'm just saying you can do a lot at home. Your doctor's not with you all the time. One of the ways you can do this is through temps. So that's a really important diagnostic to tell you where you're at, whether you need more or whether you need to dial back.
What were the negatives of taking too much thyroid or being hyperthyroid?
It's really a Goldilocks situation. I'll tell you, both is bad. Both hypo and hyper are bad. Okay. Sometimes people think if you take a bunch of T3, I'm just going to lose a bunch of weight and burn all this fat is not going to be great. It'll backfire. It really is Goldilocks, not too hot, not too cold, and here's why. Excess T3 will rev up metabolism. Just FYI, the creatures in our world and society and life that have the fastest metabolism live the shortest lives, like hummingbirds. Okay, so this whole thing about I want a fast metabolism, no, you don't. I mean, you want a good fat burning metabolism, that's totally achievable, but you don't want a super high fast metabolism because what's going to happen is you're eventually going to get fat and bloated. It's going to eventually mess with cortisol and make you inflamed, and sometimes can even mimic hypothyroid symptoms. The feelings of hyperthyroidism, the ones that I thought were really brutal, was this detachment from people. It's like your brain is operating on a different level and you can't almost deal with people and social situations. You also can't do that with hypothyroid only just because you're feeling gross and you just want to stay at home. There's something with hyperthyroidism that is an alienating from other people thing. And I don't know what more to say about that. You also experience, your temps will be high. So I'd be 99 degrees. I would wake up and my resting pulse, upon waking, would be 96. That's unacceptable. Okay, so higher than normal pulse, sweaty, heart palps, really hot hands and feet. I mean, listen, you know you're hypothyroid when you have cold hands and feet, but you don't want them to also be hot. Our hands and feet are normally a little cooler than the rest of our body. That's normal. You know if you're one of these people that's just cold all the time, and that's a different story. So heat, pooping constantly, you'll have maybe diarrhea, excess bowels, bulging eyes. And again, you might lose weight for a while and it might feel kind of good, and then it'll feel really bad and it could backfire and actually made me more fat and bloated. And it can mess with blood sugar and glucose to the point where you can also get, pre-diabetic that way. And I did as well. Hypothyroidism also leads to prediabetes. And this is why, getting back to being on a low carb paradigm, why that overall is great for everybody is that eventually most people who are hypothyroid because of that state of no metabolism, they eventually get insulin resistance. Thyroid and type 2 diabetes go hand in hand. And so that's why the paleo part of this, once you've gotten over the hypothyroid part in terms of you've corrected it either naturally or through medication, you really have to go down this paradigm of becoming more insulin sensitive. And that will also help you lose the weight, but it's about obviously overall health there.
Are there any other than selenium, are there any other micronutrients that you recommend people paying attention to for thyroid health?
Yeah, totally. Selenium is really key, particularly the form S-E-methyl-L-selenocysteine, which Life Extension sells, and I'm not affiliated with them, but I know they're the only brand I found that sells that form. That's the most absorbable. Other than that, there are, for example, iodine. But people go online and they look up iodine and then they go get iodine and they take that thinking that's going to fix their thyroid problem. And it actually can make it worse, give you detox symptoms, and mess with Hashimoto. So unless you have a true iodine deficiency, which is really only tested by a 24-hour urine test. Okay, so if you don't have a true iodine deficiency, then you just need the trace amounts. How do you get that? Sea vegetables, or I really do like this one formula called by Gaia Herbs called Thyroid Support Formula. It's got a little tyrosine, it's got a little ashwagandha, it's got a little of all of the supporting stuff. So if you're going to try to do this naturally, I'm like, take 2 of those pills in the morning.
It's a good product.
Take selenium, 200 micrograms a day. What else? I mean, my gosh, vitamin D. One of the major factors too for most people is if you've been hypothyroid, here's how it works. Everything's slow, low, sludgy, right? It's why you're cold. It's why you don't have the right temps, right? Everything's just, constipated. Everything's kind of shutting down. And in those scenarios, when we start eating, we produce less hydrochloric acid. Then it doesn't really break down the food. Then we've got the compromised gut health, and then you don't hold on to nutrients. So often hypothyroid patients become classically deficient in the following: ferritin, which is iron storage. That is one of the most important tests that you should add to the tests I said earlier for everybody, particularly menstruating women, although men are low in it too sometimes. And that is really key. If your iron storage isn't up to par, your own thyroid hormones or the ones you're taking are not going to get to where they need to go, and it could be the missing link. You absolutely have to have proper ferritin status, and that means between 50 and 100 for most people. On a range of 10 to 150, it would be like 50 to 100. 65 would be ideal for women. Then when you solve the hypothyroidism, you're good. You don't need to take iron. Your body holds on to all these nutrients and you're good to go. But that is one thing that can really cause problems along the way. If you have low ferritin and you start taking thyroid hormone, you're not going to be able to advance and get up to your optimal dose because you will have some counter interactions going on. And usually it's just the ferritin. So sometimes, this is what I did when I had to fix myself. I had to concurrently take natural desiccated along with iron as I was going down the road. And iron's a temporary thing. Sometimes it's only 2-3 months to get it up, but it does take a while. And there's a proper protocol. We in the thyroid community, we always prefer ferrous bisglycinate chelate. One of the brands, you go to Whole Foods and get their brand of it. We love Blue Bonnet is a brand we all kind of use in among thyroid patients. And you take it with some vitamin C at dinner, way away from your thyroid. But, you set an iPhone timer for a couple months. You don't want to overshoot it. You're not probably going to, but that's something that everyone needs to assess. So iron is key, particularly ferritin, which is iron storage. So some doctors will be like, yeah, I'll test your iron. And you're like, no, test this, iron storage. So that's really key. Selenium, obviously iodine, iron, obviously optimizing all nutrient levels like vitamin D and B12, particularly if you have high homocysteine like I did, or your MTHFR, whatever your mutation is. Taking a methyl B12 folate is usually not a bad idea for most people, and B12 should be at about 800 or 900, usually on a scale of 100 to 800 or something like that. So that's another nutrient that's really important that people lose. In general, I'd say that it's following the Paleo Primal lifestyle. When you clean out these seed oils and these antagonistic things to our body, then what you have left is, nutrient optimization. And also, of course, again, if you have Hashimoto's, you just cannot afford to eat grains. Not right now, not until you're better. And then go ahead and do what you want, yeah.
Oh, you've done an incredible job of taking this very complicated topic and passionately teaching us everything we need to know about thyroid. Thank you so much. Where can people find out more from you and get your book?
Well, you can find my book at any Barnes & Noble or on Amazon. But, I offer a free thyroid ebook, free thyroid guide on my website because, I spent so much money. And it's like, look, just get on the right path, people. You don't have to buy my book. It's very cheap. It's literally one of the best thyroid books out there. I think you'd benefit, but you can just go to my website, elleruss.com, download the free thyroid guide. What is in there is every test I just mentioned to take and more. I talk about HbA1c and DHEA and some other things. I have podcasts with me and other doctors on hyperthyroidism even, because I get a lot of questions about what if I don't have my gland or what if I had this disease. I have a warning on T3 only. I also have where do you find a doctor in your state or country? There are so many great resources. So just go to my website, do the free thyroid guide. And of course, anyone can reach out to me individually through my website for coaching, or you can buy my book. But again, I know what it's like to go down a rabbit hole of spending so much money with doctors and supplements, and you're like, I'm nowhere. So
time, even more than money, it's time, right?
Yeah.
Wasting time.
So I'd like to get everyone to A to Z quicker. There's the free thyroid guide, and help yourself, and contact me if you have, any questions.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm very grateful for your time, and thank you for teaching us all everything about thyroids.
Thanks so much for having me.
Have a great day.
Join us on benpakulski.com to learn the cutting-edge techniques to take control of your body, your brain, and create your greatest life.
This podcast is for information purposes only. The statements and views on this podcast are not medical advice. This podcast, including Ben Pakulski and the producers, disclaim responsibility for any possible adverse effects from the use of information contained herein. Opinions of guests are their own, and this podcast does not endorse or accept responsibility for statements made by guests. This podcast does not make any representations or warranties about guest qualifications or credibility. This podcast may contain paid endorsements or advertisements for products or services. Individuals on this podcast may have a direct or indirect financial interest in products or services referred to herein. If you think you have a medical problem, consult a licensed physician.